Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Nerf Report. We have a fantastic show lined up for you this week. 6 brand new video games to talk about. Ubisoft is shutting down one of their most ambitious games of the year. FromSoftware discusses the potential of Elden Ring 2, and Xbox's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is receiving incredible reviews. All of this and so much more on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Can you see me?
Let's just film the video.
Zip it! The ghost of Macho Man Randy Savage is here.
Oh my god! Yes, negativity sells, and it sure as hell makes clicking your thumbnails a lot easier. But I, as a gamer, as a nerd, as a creator, I am so tired of being upset for clicks.
Are you listening?
Ho, 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 ho!
Strangers from distant lands and friends of old, you have been summoned here for another episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend. It's been a crazy week for games. Like, legit, look at what broke down this week. We had the Thing remastered drop. Marvel's Rivals, which is like the Marvel-themed version of Overwatch, dropped. And then Indiana Jones, if you did the bonus pack, you got access to it on Friday. Or Thursday night, my apologies, Thursday night. It's been an incredible week for video games, but it's also just been kind of crazy to think, like, we are at an era of gaming when a good game could come out and it's just, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I might play that. But it's like, back when I was a kid, a good game came out, I was like, oh, I'm clearing my schedule. I'm 100% playing that this weekend. And I don't know if we've just become so oversaturated with video games right now. And maybe that's why we're seeing so many layoffs at the time, but like it's a great time to be a gamer, but it's obviously a really tough time to be a game developer. So before we get started into the show, I definitely did want to say shout out to everyone who's kind of been affected by layoffs this year. There's a website, videogamelayoffs.com. You know it's bad when like someone makes a website tracking how many people got fired this year. But anyway, videogamelayoffs.com is reporting that it's about 14,000 video game developers lost their jobs this year. So I hope all of you have a good holiday season. I hope your unemployment isn't long. I hope you're back on your feet, opening your own studios, joining a new studio, and I wish you nothing but success as we move into 2025. Now, show conversation. Obviously, this show is going to be ad-free today. Yeah, no ads, because what we learned is when we put video game trailers in this show, we lose monetization because video game developers like to use licensed music, and we don't pay for that licensed music. So literally, I think like the last 6 episodes, they've been claimed by some artist out there. So kudos to them. Congratulations on getting our ad revenue for the past couple episodes. But moving forward, we will not be monetizing the main podcast, so enjoy this show ad-free. As far as like the clips and the other stuff that we do here on the channel, those will obviously have ads, but that's just a little bit of housekeeping. Now, if you're like, hey, ads are how you run your channel, it's not necessarily how we run our channel. We also have other revenues forms that you could jump into. Obviously, we got our Nerf Gaming News Friends membership that you can join. We've got our Casual Friends and our Best Friend memberships. Casual Friends, $1.99. Best Friend, I think it's $4.99 is what we're doing. But essentially, it allows you to support the channel, but also get access to new content that other people don't get to see, like our daily show where we dive into the daily gaming news. And we heavily plan on expanding that as we move into 2025 as well. The other way you can support the channel and support the show if you're interested is we actually drop merch. So we have a Monkey Brain Entertainment store, which is our parent company. We have a store that has Nerf Gaming News shirts, Nerf Report shirts. We have our brand new Nerf Report poster and t-shirt for the holiday season. Those are all available right now, and 100% of those proceeds go to funding this show. So if you can support us, thank you. If you can't, I completely understand. It's a tough time out there for everybody, but I do want to talk about some video games. So enough about supporting the channel. Let's support some developers, shall we? We got a brand new trailer for a top-down car combat survivor video game called DRIVELOOP. Ubisoft has announced that it will be shutting down the XDefiant servers. Yeah, this kind of came out of nowhere in my opinion. If you weren't aware, XDefiant was this like free-to-play first-person shooter video game that it featured like factions, classes. It was super fast-paced team-based matches, and it served as a tie-in to like other games in the Ubisoft universe, which I thought was super clever. Like you had factions from like The Division, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. And what makes this story wild is we are 1 week into December, and this game launched in May of this year. So think about that for a second, right? That is 7 months that Ubisoft gave this game, and they were like, we've seen enough. Throw in the towel. And I think it definitely deserves to be said that like Ubisoft had some wild ambitions for this game. XDefiant was originally announced back in 2021. The beta launched in 2023, and at the launch of the beta, it had more views on Twitch than Warzone, which is a massive deal in the world of content creation and live streaming. When the game launched in 2024, XDefiant had over 1 million unique players in the first 2.5 hours of the game, setting a brand new record for all Ubisoft titles. 48 hours post-launch, the game had seen 3 million unique players and was averaging a concurrent player base of 300,000 players across all platforms. 1 month later, in June, the game had already seen over 11 million total players. And look, Call of Duty has dominated the first-person shooter space for as long as I can remember. Like, we have had people who've tried to take the crown from Call of Duty. You know, Destiny really tried. And there was a moment that I was like, man, Destiny could do it, but they really never got the PvP in place to, like, do it. Battlefield obviously has tried. Medal of Honor has tried. What was that one that Xbox came out with? That was like a first-person shooter that was made by an Asian studio. But anyway, Call of Duty's came. And everybody wants to take out Call of Duty. And I'm sure, like, internally at Ubisoft, people were seeing these initial XDefiant numbers and were like, yo, we might be the new Call of Duty. Like, you might be looking at the new kings of first-person shooting. And that's, to me, what makes this story so wild. Because we go from gangbusters in May to 7 months later, and we're shutting down the game. Now, the official XDefiant account over on X posted about the closure this week, tweeting, I am unfortunately here today to announce that XDefiant will be shutting down. Starting December 3rd, new downloads and player registrations will no longer be available. We will still release our Season 3 content in the future, and the servers will remain active until June 3rd of 2025, which is really interesting to me because the key takeaway from there is like no new players, right? So essentially, like, Ubisoft was faced the option of like shutting down the store and not letting anybody purchase that, which it sounds like they've already done. But number two, they're like, no new players. We're not running the risk of this game becoming more popular than it needs to be. It's a weird choice, right? Because I think the trend we're going to see following this announcement is just player counts are going to continue to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, especially without having like new players in the holiday season coming to try the game. You think about all the new PlayStation owners and Xbox owners that are getting consoles this year under the tree or from Santa, and you got to question, like, would XDefiant have had a surge of popularity there? Now, this announcement led a lot of players to start asking the question of being like, well, am I going to get refunded? Like, what about all the money I've invested into this game? And to Ubisoft's credit, they did reveal that any purchases made in the last 30 days in XDefiant will be refunded, and players who purchased the Ultimate Founder Packs would receive a full refund. But again, I'm sitting here, like, this news dropped earlier this week, and as I'm researching this game and talking about this story, the more and more I talk about it, the more I wonder, like, what the hell happened? What happened to XDefiant? But what makes this even weirder is that, like, at the end of the announcement of the closure, Ubisoft and XDefiant kind of closed out the message by saying, free-to-play in particular is a long journey. Many free-to-play games take a long time to find their footing and become profitable. It's a long journey that Ubisoft and the teams working on the games were prepared to make until very recently. But unfortunately, the journey became too much to sensibly continue. And that statement at the end of this announcement makes me believe that, like, boy, there is some internal drama going on behind the scenes right now at Ubisoft, because to me, that sounds like a message from the developers being like, we didn't want to shut this down, Ubisoft shut this down. And God, I don't know how that got approved through the like PR and like everybody who reviews those things, because that's such a bad light. And look, I did do some digging here. I mean, the game did see a dip in the player base in August. The concurrent player count had hit 20,000 total players, which look, isn't great, but at the same time, like I would say it's not terrible, right? Like I know there are thousands of developers out there who are releasing their games on Steam that if they were like, yo, I've got 20,000 people playing this game every single month, yo, sign me up. It's the same concept with like Rooster Teeth. I read that when Rooster Teeth shut down, they had something like 300,000 or 200,000 monthly members that were paying like $9.99 a month. And I'm like, why would you shut that down? You could scale back, you could operate within that. And I'm like, man, 20,000 is a lot of people to get rid of. And granted, in the world of Call of Duty, that's literally drops in a bucket to Call of Duty. But 20,000 is a lot of players that are still dedicated to your game 7 months after it launches. So really interesting. But like they said, I mean, free-to-play games take time. And it goes through waves, right? You see games gain popularity, and then a new update comes out, and the popularity comes back, and then it drops down, and it pops up. And it just doesn't sound like Ubisoft was really willing to take this journey, even though like Ubisoft San Francisco very much wanted to. And clearly that's the case, because following this announcement, Ubisoft revealed that its Ubisoft San Francisco and Ubisoft Osaka studios would be shuttered, impacting about 277 developers that worked on XDefiant. Now, some of those developers will be transferred to like other games, but it's just like, I don't understand this. And maybe this is where like the sports world analogy comes in, because I feel like if Ubisoft would have been willing to sell the XDefiant property and like sell it to someone else, somebody would have taken it. Like, would Sony have been like, you're telling me you have 20,000 players? Sure, I'll take it. Give it to me. We'll fund this. Or Xbox would fund this. And I don't, again, guy in his garage talking about video games. I don't know if those conversations happen behind the scenes, but I feel like that's better than laying off 277 people. Now, the CEO of Ubisoft, Yves Guillemot, did put out an internal memo that was obtained by Insider Gaming. And just some of the key points here, I'm not going to dive into the entire thing because it is very long. Yves did say the announcement by Maurice Sophie regarding the discontinuation of XDefiant, the closure of the San Francisco and Osaka studios, and the ramp down of the Sydney production site is among the difficult decisions that we had to make. I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the tremendous work done by the XDefiant team. Their goal was to challenge the best shooter on the market, but despite the intensity of their efforts, it was not enough. I am well aware that given the current context, such announcements may worry you, and that's understandable. The entire industry is facing similar difficult decisions, yet often the scale of the impact is much larger. Our organization has allowed us to limit the impact of these kind of decisions and make more targeted restructurings, and all our efforts are focused on trying to maintain the course and philosophy. We will continue working on evolving our organization to adapt it to market changes and with a long-term perspective in mind. And I think really like the message here is, number one, this sucks for XDefiant fans, right? Like the game you love, it's no longer going to be available halfway through next year. And really, like, my condolences go out to you guys. Like, that sucks. I've been there. I've played games, and it's like, oh, well, this game's gone. Can never play it again in my life. But I also think, like, the flip side of this is with XDefiant being shut down and Ubisoft shutting down studios, the pressure that is on Assassin's Creed Shadows to be a very good game is becoming very apparent. And I got to imagine that Ubisoft is like, yeah, this game is already facing backlash and it's not even out yet. So we're going to take all the time that it takes to make sure that Assassin's Creed Shadows is the best game possible. Because if that game bombs, dear God, I genuinely don't know what the future of Ubisoft has. Because that Assassin's Creed is kind of always like their bread and butter, right? That's the game that generates a lot of revenue for that company. And you've seen the controversy. You know that there's been backlash to Shadows. So it's like, what's going on? Like, 2025 is going to be such an interesting year for Ubisoft. And, I mean, it also gets you wondering, right? Like, what does that future in 2025 look like? Like, I constantly see people over on X who are like, oh, this just in, Xbox is going to acquire PlayStation, or I just heard that PlayStation is going to buy Ubisoft. And it's just like, you always look at those and you're like, okay, bud. Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it. But now that, like, you're seeing the troubles that Ubisoft is having and, like, the woes and the layoffs and the shutdowns and the closures, and you're just like, are these weirdos right? Are the people speculating on Twitter that Xbox might buy Ubisoft or PlayStation might buy Ubisoft, in a year or 2 years, are we going to look back and be like, Nostradamus over here? They predicted it 2 years in advance. But, again, just a wild story. I mean, the game clearly had a bright future, in my opinion. You could build off the success at the launch, and games go through their dips and highs. And I'm just like, God, I feel like Ubisoft pulled the plug too soon. But again, at least it wasn't like Concord. I mean, Concord was a premium game where PlayStation pulled the game within like 2 weeks. So the fact that they gave the game the ability to cook at least, you know, I'm not talking like a 4-course meal. I mean, Ubisoft gave like instant rice cook for XDefiant, but like at least we got to see the game have a couple seasons. But anyway, enough about XDefiant and Ubisoft. We'll obviously be paying very close attention to this story as it develops. However, I do want to jump into our next story. And before we do that, we have a brand new trailer for a VR action adventure game that looks fantastic. So without further ado, here is Skydance's Behemoth. Xbox's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is now available across the world, and it is getting some incredible reviews. Now, granted, I haven't played it yet because I'm poor, and I did not want to buy the premium edition. Yeah, I'm playing this through Game Pass, and I believe that becomes available on the 9th, which is Sunday, right? Today is the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, which is Monday. So I will be definitely checking that game out then. However, based off the gameplay, the live streams, the reviews, the podcasts that I've seen, this game seems like it's a home run for Xbox. And as someone who's been like a lifetime PlayStation fan, who has thoroughly enjoyed story-driven action games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, and even like some of the Horizon games, now that Xbox is starting to like dip their toes in that type of story-driven action genre, it has me thrilled because I want more of these games. Like, I don't care what platform they're on, just give me more of these games. That's where I'm at as an adult right now. So because I haven't reviewed the game myself, I figured let's talk about some of the other reviews that are out there. So let's check out some of these opinions. IGN gave Indiana Jones and the Great Circle a 9 out of 10. VGC gave it a 5 out of 5. Eurogamer gave it a 5 out of 5. GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10. Game Rant gave it an 8 out of 10. And breaking from the pack was a brand new publication called My Little Sony Pony, which gave the game a 1 out of 10 that said, your standard Xbox video game. Those reviews are some of the best reviews I've seen for an Xbox video game in a while. Like, usually when Xbox video games come out, they're 7s or 8s. It has been a very long time that we've seen such a consistent conversation around this game being like, this is good. And seeing that the game's dropping on the 9th, you better believe I am playing that game. I will be playing it all day. And I have a lot of questions, right? There's a lot of questions that are going into this game that because I didn't get invited to test demos or interviews or anything like that, there's stuff that I want answered, like first-person perspective. That is something that I have definitely been talking about, and it feels like it's a choice to do this game in a first-person perspective. And I want to play the game myself to see if I like it or not. Like, maybe I have spent the last year complaining about the first-person perspective for no reason. Like, maybe I should have just seen the trailer and been like, okay, I trust them. Let's see how it is. But that's something I won't be able to tell until I play the game firsthand next week. But I also think, like, looking at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and its launch, this really is like the first Xbox published video game to achieve the grand vision of Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. And don't get me wrong, you know, Starfield, Hellblade 2, those are fantastic games, but I don't know. They felt like just the same old caliber of what you expected from those studios. However, Indiana Jones feels like it's one of those games that is bringing Xbox to the next level, and it really does establish them as a fantastic publisher. And hopefully, this ushers in a brand new era of Xbox video games moving forward, an era of excellent video games that not only expands the Xbox brand, but it also brings new eyeballs to the platform. And maybe that's the most interesting part of this story, is Xbox has this giant campaign of, this is an Xbox. Everything is an Xbox. My Gold Peak tea, not a sponsor, could be, but this is an Xbox, right? Like, this is the whole conversation they're doing. And Indiana Jones coming out, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs surrounding this game, especially when you have reviews like a 9 out of 10 coming from IGN. There's going to be a ton of eyeballs looking at this game who want to play it. And now you're no longer shackled to having to buy a $600 console to play the game. You can use your smartphone, you can use your tablet, you can use your computer, your streaming stick, your television. How does that impact the Xbox ecosystem? It is going to be very interesting to see this game launch and how this impacts Xbox's strategy for like everything's an Xbox moving forward. And maybe more than like my interest in the game, I'm more interested in like the Xbox strategy. But anyway, the game will be going live for everybody else on December 9th. Enjoy it. I definitely will. Next week's show, I'll come back with all of my thoughts and opinions on the game. But until then, we do have another video game trailer to introduce you to. This is a top-down, open-world snow sports video game that really reminded me of like the old school Windows snowboarding skiing game that like the Yeti chased you down the hill. Shout out to anybody who remembers that game, but if you don't, look it up on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it. But anyway, we got a brand new trailer for a video game called Grand Mountain Adventure 2. Sony's exclusive party shooter game FOAMSTARS is receiving one more season of content, and then it's over for content for the game. In a brand new blog post from Square Enix, they announced a new season called Party Goes On. It said, this season will take place on December 13th and last until January 17th, but season updates for FOAMSTARS will be coming to an end. And FOAMSTARS is kind of a weird one for me. Like, I played the game. I played it when it was free on PlayStation Plus, and then I saw that you were trying to like sell the game for non-PlayStation Plus members, and I don't know. It just, you could clearly see that PlayStation was like, let's make our version of Splatoon, but it wasn't Splatoon, and the gameplay just never really like hooked me. And I think I played it for like a solid 2.5, 3 hours when the game came out, and I couldn't get the grasp of like, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish? And that's nothing against you as a gamer. It's just the game wasn't for me. Now, despite this being the final season, Square did mention that they will be keeping these servers up, specifically noting that in-game expansions will be introduced to enhance gameplay moving forward. Expansions will add the ability to customize shots, add new enhancement elements, and ensure players will continue to enjoy the game moving forward. And this is one of those weird things, because like even though the seasonal content is ending, it's hard not to look at this story and be like, this is an L for PlayStation and an L for Square Enix. Especially since Sony has had like a trend of games as a service really struggle to exist. I mean, look at it from this generation. And again, one of Sony's biggest fans here, but this might be one of the biggest blemishes on the Sony brand. I mean, you take a studio who, the previous generation, blew the top off just by releasing games of like God of War, Last of Us, Spider-Man, Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima. And then this generation, they're like, let's forget all of that. Let's get into games as a service, right? That's where the money is. And then you see games like Destruction All-Stars, Concord, The Last of Us multiplayer game, which got canceled before it released, FOAMSTARS, which is not receiving seasonal content. It's kind of being sunsetted from the studio. And then you find out Sony canceled a Spider-Man multiplayer video game from Insomniac. And on the outside, I'm just like, okay, 2 of those games that never came out would have been absolutely sick. The other 3, I can understand the risk. But also, where are the single-player games? Right? Yes, we get a couple single-player games. We get the new Death Stranding coming out next year, and I think there's Ghost of Tsushima 2 coming out next year. But, like, where are my God of Wars? Where are my Last of Us? Where are my Uncharted's? Where are my Horizons? Where are all these other games that, like, we've come to know for the PlayStation brand? And yes, I know that I'm going out here, but, like, also, where the hell is my Order 1886 sequel? Where is my Days Gone sequel? Give me those people. I would much rather pay a higher premium for those games than pay for a season pass in a games as a service that is like, it's okay. And again, I say that as the biggest Sony fanboy in the room. Granted, there's like 2 of us in here, so that's not really saying a lot. But I say that as someone who is a massive fan of Sony. It is concerning. And I really hope that PlayStation like looks at the previous launches of games as a service and says like, let's get back to what we're good at, right? Let's get back to releasing single-player narrative-driven games. But I will say, the one interesting note here is like, I would love to see what's going to happen to FOAMSTAR's player base like after this announcement happened. Like obviously we can't track it on Steam because it's a PlayStation exclusive video game. But like I would love to know how many people are still playing this game after you get an announcement like this from Square Enix, because I got to imagine, like, not having seasonal content, you're really not going to be driving more new players to the game, which means the existing player base is probably going to be stuck in lobbies, and it's going to take longer and longer and longer, and it's just going to keep dropping, eventually leading to Square Enix being like, hey, we're shutting down the FOAMSTAR servers. But that's obviously not going to happen anytime soon. I think that they've at least committed to, like, the next year or 2 years of supporting this game, but still a crazy time for PlayStation. I genuinely say this with all love and appreciation for the hard work that goes into making video games, but please get back to single-player video games. I genuinely love those, and I want to see more of them. But anyway, enough of this story. Let's dive into another video game trailer. This one, very intriguing. It's a combat turn-based strategy game that's based on a road. So without further ado, I'm not going to spoil it anymore. Let's check out a brand new trailer for the video game Shadow of the Road. Elden Ring developer FromSoftware has addressed Elden Ring 2 rumors. Yes! I love when developers do this, because oftentimes there's so much speculation and the internet rumors just run so wild and they get out of hand. Like, remember when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out and all the internet was talking about was like, this means Grand Theft Auto 6 is next. And it's like, well, hold on. We still got time until Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. It's still not out yet, but whenever a developer comes out and they're like, hey, we know there's going to be rumors, let's get ahead of this, I applaud it. So this story comes from IGN Japan, who sat down with the director of Elden Ring, who basically said, we're not really considering developments such as Elden Ring 2. So I think that's a fair call right now, that we can say, no more Elden Ring 2 question mark videos on YouTube, please. Except for this one. Obviously, this one will be titled Elden Ring ? And yes, that might be hypocritical, but shut your mouth. I'm the executive producer of the show, and I make the calls. I'm the big boy here. Now, it's definitely worth mentioning that the Elden Ring team did say that the studio is open to expanding the Elden Ring IP into other verticals, which, I mean, is kind of almost a bigger story. I mean, yes, I would love to see an Elden Ring 2 video game and see them build upon that, but like, an Elden Ring TV series? Elden Ring movie? Like, you gotta be kidding me. And even then, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how FromSoftware's parent company, Kadokawa, was wanting Sony to purchase them. And this is one of those areas that I was talking about. I feel like this would be where Sony could bring in an immense value to FromSoftware. I mean, you look at like what the studio has done with God of War and Horizon, and the Last of series was impeccable. It was such a great show. Like, if Sony led the charge on an Elden Ring show, I would have zero doubt in my mind that it was going to be a good show. Now, to defend FromSoftware's decision here, just because they're not working on Elden Ring 2 doesn't mean that they don't have a bunch of other IPs to work on. I mean, they also have Armored Core, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, or even Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And I also understand the demand for an Elden Ring 2. I mean, that game sold 25 million copies. There are a bunch of people who would like to see that series continue, but on the same hand, it's also been 10 years since the last Dark Souls game, and that series sold 35 million copies. So in my opinion, if I was in charge of FromSoftware, moving forward, I'm focusing on like Dark Souls 4, maybe a Bloodborne 2, and then you go to Elden Ring 2, because at the end of the day, who doesn't like printing money? I mean, all three of those games are going to sell incredibly, and I wish them the best of luck in counting dollars and yen as they move forward. So anyway, that's kind of the story as it goes to Elden Ring 2. Don't keep your hopes up for getting it anytime soon. But we do have a brand new video game trailer before we jump into the next story. This is an action-adventure game about a boy and his dog. Without further ado, here is The Legend of Baboo. HAZELIGHT'S Studios, the team behind It Takes Two and A Way Out, just had their next game leaked online along with the release date. And look, HAZELIGHT'S Studios, you know them for either one of two reasons. One, their games. They speak for themselves. I mean, It Takes Two is a masterpiece. Or the second reason you know the studio is because of the studio's founder.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars!
Yeah, in case you're not aware, that's Joseph Fuck the Oscars Ferris, who has made some very good games. I mean, this studio has made a habit of releasing really dope multiplayer video games, and a lot of us here on the show have kind of been speculating as to like, what will the new game be? When are we going to see the next game? But apparently we don't have to wait much longer, because Deal Labs magazine wrote an article this week that detailed that Split Fiction will be the next game coming from HAZELIGHT Studios, and it will be announced at the Game Awards, surprise, surprise, and it will release on March 6th of 2025. Now, the last time that we heard about this game was in October when Joseph Ferris posted on X saying, here's a tease, it's a brand new IP called S, a bunch of asterisks followed by a bunch of more asterisks, and can't wait to show it soon. And then HAZELIGHT Studios pretty much retweeted that with an image of a cover page that teased like the game's title, the release date, and kind of a concept. Now, other than that, nothing else is known about this game. The Game Awards are taking place on the 12th, which is next Thursday. I, for one, will be watching it very closely. We're in talks about hosting a stream here on the channel so we can all watch it together. But we'll definitely talk about this. I think that this definitely deserves some focus because It Takes Two, A Way Out, fantastic games. So it's going to be interesting to see if the studio could do a three-peat. But until then, we obviously do have one more game to introduce you to. This is a puzzle adventure game for the MetaQuest and Steam VR. Of course, I am talking about The House of Da Vinci. Amazon's cloud gaming service Luna is quickly becoming one of the best values in video game today. And I always try to take time here on the show to give people their roses, and Amazon Luna, I think, is a platform that definitely deserves it. So shout out to everybody working on Amazon Luna as a platform. Shout out to my fellow lunatics out there who are playing on the platform. And in case you weren't aware, 2024 was a very transformative year for Amazon Luna. We got the Ubisoft tie-in, where you can basically play your Ubisoft PC games that you've purchased on Amazon Luna. Epic tied in their stores, so you've got Fortnite available, and in theory, you could tie in other games as well. And then Amazon merged a ton of subs into Luna Plus, just increasing the overall value of that, along with introducing Luna Prime Gaming, where Amazon Prime members get free games to install and play via the cloud every single month. And then Luna and GOG announced a partnership where GOG games that you purchase can be played on Amazon Luna. Fast forward to today, and we are seeing that partnership evolve in a way that I definitely did not expect. So 'tis the holiday season. Spoiler alert, I don't know if our decorations gave it away to you, but Amazon right now is giving away over 28 games for free on Amazon.com in part of Prime Gaming. And many of these games are GOG titles, right? You claim them and you get GOG codes, meaning that in theory, if you are an Amazon Luna player, you could go to this site, claim these games, and now add them to your Luna library. Now, there is a small asterisk here. Not every GOG game is supported on Amazon Luna yet. However, both teams are very supportive of growing the library as much as possible. But it is really cool, that you can go on Prime Gaming every single month, and if the code says GOG, in theory, that is playable on Amazon Luna. So if you're a Prime member, definitely take advantage of this. And if Luna capitalizes on this, can you imagine the value that this brings to the platform? Originally I thought oh yeah, you could sell games on Amazon.com. You look at a game and it says play instantly via Luna, but the idea of just selling GOG games or Steam games on Amazon and they're compatible with Luna is so much cooler. And while, yes, I don't know if you could build a business off of just giving away free video games, but I do feel like this is where Amazon could be hey, we're going to give you a taste. We're going to give you an idea of what the platform is, introduce them to the ecosystem, and then sell them on the rest. So anyway, I wanted to end the show just by saying kudos to the Amazon Luna team. I know we don't talk about them as much as we used to here on the show, and they definitely deserve their credit. So end of the year, congratulations to them. I think that they've had a spectacular year this year. And if you haven't checked out Luna yourself, definitely do. It is a fantastic cloud gaming platform that is really trying to evolve the way that they bring games to gamers. But anyway, with that, that is going to wrap up this week's show. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this week. We had a ton of stories to talk about. And if we missed something, let me know. Let me know if there was something you wanted to hear covered that we did not cover. But I always love diving into the comments from this main show because I'm like, someone I always see them like be like, yo, they'll mention something at like the 50-minute mark. And I'm like, oh man, they're an OG. They stuck all the way to the end of the show. So kudos to them. But anyway, thank you guys for your support. Special shout out to the Nerf Gaming friends. We couldn't do the show without y'all. Literally, your monetary donations make this show possible. You keep the lights on. And thank you guys to the viewers. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, we will see you in the next video.